And now, presenting the brave soul who faced the darkest night, inviting you to join her on a transformative journey through the depths of despair and emerging on the other side with a strengthened spirit, the author of God Prince, Jenny Levitt. Introducing a special feature, a series of podcasts where our creator shares her story in different episodes.
Hi friends, welcome back to another episode with us. It's been a little while. Today I have been thinking a lot about how I'm so grateful that I survived cancer all those years ago. And God gave me a second chance when I could have died. My sister passed away not too long ago from cancer, and I guess that kind of drove it home to me again, how precious life is and how grateful I am for this second chance at life. And I only half joke with, especially Myron, my husband, that sometimes I feel like this body is an old car that just breaks down all the time and I need an upgrade. Yeah. And one of the great things about being a believer in Christ is that we know that that's actually a hope that we have, is that one day we are going to get an upgrade. One day when Jesus comes back for us, the Bible makes it very clear we're going to get a new body with no more pain, no more crying, no more tears. But in the meantime, sometimes it feels like all the time, this body's just breaking down. I never know. And then on top of all that, I have the long-term effects of radiation, and chemo as well. So getting older and all these effects. But that kind of leads me to one of the common questions that I get about you, Caleb. One of the most common thing people want to know is, especially when they hear about all the injuries that you sustained in the accident, a lot of times people want to know, well, how's he doing now? And on my website, I've tried to share a little bit. So, if people have been with us for a little bit, they know that you and Crystal got married.
Going on 9 months.
Yeah. And we're actually recording in their home. So let me just ask you, how are you doing now?
So I think physically there's still some, issues and struggles. And as we get further out from the actual accident, I think that they become more pronounced and that they show up more and more, unfortunately. And so because I just think that there were some things, not that the doctors did that wouldn't last long, but it's just, I think the nature of it and all of those injuries that I had, that it just starts to kind of to wear on me, so physically and everything else. And sometimes my hip will hurt, it was really bad. And that's where I have a rod going down and then 2 screws going across, I think, the pelvis area. And so that, that type of stuff. And I think it's getting worse sometimes, but mainly whenever it's rainy outside or cold, or both, so those days are kind of hard. But I'm just so thankful that I can walk because that wasn't known, at the beginning. And, just some other issues that have arisen as of late. Part of it's probably because I don't like going to the doctor, like a lot of guys, especially Dad, but me. And so some of these issues probably could have been handled if I had went before they were bigger issues. But just kind of learning from that and just knowing that some of these things may not be really solved until heaven, unfortunately. But I mean, I'm still walking around, still moving. It's just getting a little bit harder maybe on my knee and my hip, but other than that, I think it's doing okay. I would say another thing is that, and I don't want to make you or anybody else feel worried, but I think that maybe the injury to my brain is also showing up a little bit more now, because sometimes I'm really wrestling to find the right words sometimes to say. So I've just been keeping that in prayer, because I don't want that, especially because I'm only 28. I don't really want that to be who I am as I get older, but it's just a nature of it as well. And so just having those around you that can help you in those moments to find the right word or whatever you're trying to say. So it's just a nature of it. And so physical things happen after you have so many injuries and all that. So
yeah. So for those of you that maybe you're just joining us, Caleb sustained catastrophic injuries in the car accident that took the life of our youngest son, Jacob, in 2015. And when he talks about the injury to his brain, he had a traumatic brain injury that was significant. It actually, that impact broke all of the bones in your face.
Yeah.
Blew out both the eardrums, which you still battle some hearing issues as well.
This side.
Let's see, just a real quick rundown. I have to go from the top of your head working down. So then you broke your clavicle, which a piece of that broke off and sliced one of your veins on the inside, and we didn't even know that for a while. So you were in a C-collar for 12 weeks. And then, let's see.
My vertebrae fractured.
Yep.
Back the C4 vertebrae.
Yep.
I know
Broke that one, the C4. We didn't even know until much later about your arm because everything was so swollen and you were in a coma, so you couldn't tell us if it hurt. But you have a plate in there because your arm was so severely broken. Let's see, you broke 3 ribs. You lacerated your liver and had to have emergency surgery the night of. And I know you still battle some, not to put your business out there, battle some digestive. Sometimes I wonder how much is related to that lacerated liver. Broke your tailbone in 3 places. Shattered your
femur.
Yes, thank you. I couldn't find the word. And have a complete metal rod from hip to knee, replacing that. Oh, so that couldn't use this, couldn't use your left arm, and you were in a C-collar. So it really is a miracle that he's even here. But one
and
of the
walking
and walking
so
and
God worked a
cognizant.
miracle. He did.
Yeah. And you had to go through a lot of therapies, and one of them was, I don't remember what it was called, but it's the one where they tried to help you with, like, word finding, like tools that you could use. One of them was using a calendar.
Right? I think it was something like that. It was language and something, therapy. I don't remember what the other part was.
Maybe it was occupational. I don't remember.
Maybe.
But one of the other common questions that I get, and I feel like this would apply to you too, is when people hear that I had stage 4 cancer. I have been cleared since November of 19, so just past 25 years being clear. I also have a lot of long-term side effects that are mainly from the radiation exposure that I had. And like even right now, again, like you said, not to just worry people, but if you guys would be praying. I have some issues with my esophagus. They're thinking might be related to the radiation exposure. I've already had to have my thyroid completely removed several years ago, and they said it was just from that. So a question that I get a lot is about chronic illness. Like, how do you cope? How do you cope when your body is just not cooperating and you just don't feel like getting out of bed in the morning and you're hurting or whatever? And that's not even counting like when you're grieving, you can be depressed and not want to get out of bed. But I actually have a lot of people contact me and ask like tips about how to deal with chronic illness and chronic health problems. Obviously, like we've talked about, getting people that you know are full of faith to pray is helpful. Do you have any other suggestions, tips for anybody as they're trying to battle through maybe some physical ailments and people that might be watching?
Well, and because I've been asked this before, and it may not be the popular answer, but sometimes I just have to make myself get out of bed. And so obviously, to some extent, not everybody can just do that. But even whenever I feel like I can't really walk and move and get out of bed, I let myself so lay there and I stretch it out, whatever it is, so mostly over here in this section, and then I just make myself get out of bed. And as I go on throughout the day, it lessens, and I am able to walk easier. But there are days and moments where it hurts a lot, just to do that. But to me, it's like it's not a option to just lay there. And there's also a part of me that has been with me since I was a kid, where I'm not gonna let anything have that kind of power over me. And so even though it's a physical thing, to me, I am directly fighting against that kind of sphere, I guess. And so I'm just not going to let it win. And so there is just that kind of hard-nosed, just part of me, which I got from Dad probably.
Yep.
But
I don't know. Dear Dad would probably say I can be stubborn too, so.
But so I don't want Satan to win. And that's my goal, and I know that it isn't him, so physically there with me, but to me, I'm like, I want to live a life that has a meaning behind it, and I was left here for a reason, and so I can't fulfill that reason in bed, just wasting away my life.
Yeah.
And so like I have to make that decision. And so what I have learned is that even before those pains and those days or moments come, if I have set my heart that I'm not going to allow that to run my life, then whenever those moments do crop up, which they do, then it isn't a decision because I already made that choice.
And you know,
It
really,
is just finding a way to
Right.
to walk out that earlier choice and decision. So
you know, really, we've talked about this before, that that mindset, I think, actually carries over into a lot of things in your life. We've had people ask us, you know, your dad and I have been believers since we were teenagers, and we're not teenagers anymore, obviously. And we've had people ask us, you know, how have you guys survived? How have you made it for the long haul? And one of the things that we tell them frequently is like, you have to set your will. You have to decide, I am going to live for Jesus. I'm going to live for him no matter what happens. And if I don't understand, I'm just going to keep looking for the answers in God's truth. I'm going to keep trying to do what's right. But you have to make that conscious decision to set your will that this is what I'm going to do. And I think it's that same mindset. I'm going to set my will. And then the other thing I was thinking when you were just talking is, and I know this might be hard for some people to hear too, like you said, you know, it's that when you say that you're going to make yourself get out of bed, that might be hard for people to hear. But isn't that, as believers, what we're called to do? We're called to practice self-discipline. And
and I can just throw in that I haven't always done that. And you know, recently there was a time where I should have pushed back more and I didn't because it was just, you know, the holidays and I was feeling that grief, and so I did kind of allow myself for an extra 12 or whatever, you know, hours it was to stay in that place. And so finally it was like I had to have that moment where I'm like, all right, like it's been long enough, like whatever happens, you know, because but like I'm getting out of bed and I'm gonna eat again and all this stuff, and so whatever happens. And I think that was one of the major reasons why it was over after that in about another 12 hours.
Yeah.
So whatever it was, you know, it passed, and I really do think that sometimes that, especially sicknesses and illnesses, they may not fully just vanish, but they will lessen or become manageable if you simply make that decision to get out of bed or get out of wherever you are, where you are lying in, whether that's guilt, whether that's shame, whether that is simply you're just lying in that bed of illness and sickness. If you make yourself get out of that bed and start moving, then all of those symptoms and they begin to wane off because you are choosing to move. So it is definitely a thing that is related to spiritual warfare and just fighting back with that and saying, no, like you're not going to run my life for another day, another week, another month, whatever it may be. And so just, you know, start with that and pray and then get out of bed and start doing stuff. You know what I mean? But I haven't always, you know, done that because sometimes it feels really good just to lay there. It's kind of like a weird way, maybe like sadistic almost, where you're just like laying there in your own illness because you want to kind of wallow in that for that moment. But like at some point you just have to make that decision and get out of bed.